Hello everyone, welcome to Julia's Creations. I actually managed to do a 30 days oil pastel challenge. I created at least one artwork every day for 30 days and I'm now ready to share my results. I would like to first present you the rules I followed during these 30 days, then go through what I created, and in the end, I will share my thoughts about this whole experience and also some tips and tricks I learned along the way to support the creative process. So if you are interested to see how I did, keep on watching. First, during with a job and 3 school kids, I did not want to put too much pressure on myself. The only rule was I needed to create something with oil pastels every day. And then every day I allocated the time I had left. Mostly during the weekdays, I chose the time until the dinner cooked and was ready to serve, and I used that waiting times to create something. I had 15 minutes sometimes, or 30 minutes, or during the weekends I could allocate more time to go to up to 1 hour for my creative practice. But all in all, I just needed to do something with the little time I had during that day. I also did not want to think too much about what I wanted to paint. I did not plan ahead what I want to paint in one specific day. When I was ready to sit down, I just looked on Pinterest and I chose one subject that really spoke to me during that day, that was achievable for me for the time I had dedicated to my art practice, and it worked very well. Now let's see what I created during these 30 days. So the first work I did was using a tutorial from Sennelier. It was actually a dedicated set for this piece. It was the very first time I touched oil pastels, and I experimented a bit with blending. I had no idea what I was doing, but it was a good motivator to keep me going. I then created these flower bouquet inspired by the packaging of the Montmartre water-soluble oil pastels. I used those oil pastels for this piece only in the workbook, and I did not blend or use water at all. So I basically used them as standard oil pastels, and I was so motivated. It was something coming out from of my hands, which was really pretty in my opinion. And I think this was kind of the switch when I said, okay, I want to try and learn more about this medium. I was then into trying to experiment with portraits. I recently got the Sennelier portrait oil pastel set because that was something that I wanted to try and learn. It's just a very basic portrait. It was like my third attempt in my whole life to do a portrait, and I'm really proud that at least I tried. It's something that I really want to learn more about, but this is what I managed to do with the knowledge that I have at this point. Then I thought about my initial rose that I did, and I wanted to create an abstract version of it. I just used a very thin washi tape and I played a little bit with the colors, and I'm really happy with how this whole thing turned out. I made some mistakes of blending. It was also with the Sennelier oil pastels, which are really blendable and go everywhere. Even so, my fingers are also with a little bit of green on them. So basically, this was very interesting for me. I still have to find the proper paper because the washi tape kind of ripped a little bit the paper, and although I did my best on blending, it just ripped a little bit also from the oil pastels. So, but still, it's a really cool experience I had with making something abstract. Then I got the Pentel oil pastel set, and I discovered the world of Pinterest tutorials, and with that I tried my first piece following a short video I found on Pinterest with that tree. I think it turned out really nice. And it was like, oh my God, I can do something like this. Kind of, I never use oil pastels. And still something pretty comes out of it. And it motivated me to go further. The following day, also on Pinterest, was a video tutorial with these like blooming branch. And I liked, for example, how the colors appeared, but the leaves are too bright, and I did not know exactly how to use the green, how to mute it with the palette I had. So it's really bright, but still, I think it looks nice. Then I created the comparison because now I had two brands I was using. One was the Pentel, which is really affordable, and the Sennelier one. And I also created a video on this here on YouTube. I will link it right here. Because of this, I realized that there is a really good difference between the two brands, and that for me at that point, the Sennelier ones were really too pigmented and too blendable for the inexperience I had. So I decided at that point to continue and go further on a total 30 days of oil pastel art and use exclusively this Pentel set so that I get used to the medium and then hopefully be able to use better the Sennelier ones. The next day was also a tutorial from Pinterest, hibiscus rose. Again, the flower is better, but the leaves are really too bright for the hibiscus leaves. And at that time, I was learning a little bit about blending or just applying oil pastels on top and the differences of effects that brought. And then a really wow day for me. I saw these tutorial on Pinterest again, and I thought, wow, that's so pretty, and I'm not able to reproduce it. But actually, it turned out really well. However, it took some time to manage the blending because the Pentel oil pastels were really dry and difficult to blend. So I remembered about the Sennelier ones and how easy it was to blend. And this took the greatest challenge for this was just blending the whole thing. Then the waves appeared, were quite easy to do. And I also loved the like foam effect I managed to do. So this was it looks complicated, but it was quite a simple thing to do once I had the blending done. Then I saw one picture this time. So basically that was the first time I did not use a video tutorial. I just used one photo I found on Pinterest and I liked, and I tried to do the tulips. I was sketching here with an oil pastel, and I realized that that was too bulky to create the shape I want. So basically you can also see not all of the tulips look like tulips. And that was because of my sketch with a rather thick oil pastel light gray. The following day, I wanted to create tulips that look more like tulips, and I was really proud of my achievement. It was actually the tulips I got from Valentine's Day, and I wanted to paint them. And of course, the proportions, the jar they were in was smaller than this. I created a huge jar, but still, it was my first experience trying to create something out of glass. And I really like it. I just use a little bit of blue, a little bit of pink, and I liked how it turned out overall. It was also the first time I did not have a photo for reference or a video that I was using and following step by step. So this was all me, and it was motivated by the beauty of the tulips I got. So the following day I wanted to paint a floral arrangement for spring that I got from the grocery store. And even though the flowers at the top did not flower, they were still not visible. I wanted to create like a to-be version of my flower arrangement, and I was really happy with how it turned out. Not because it was perfect, but because I managed, for example, to the front flowers to just create a movement for the leaves. So I really like that they are really having a volume. And I also liked how I managed to do the pot. Then I got one book, and I saw some birds, and I really thought to try for the first time in my life to paint one bird. And I really like how it turned out. It's really cute. It's supposed to be a cuckoo bird, and it's also the first time I created the background around it, and where I realized how difficult it is to create a background to support your focal point and not to overwhelm it, like cover it, swallow it. Yeah, it's I managed to do that by emphasizing the contour of the bird, and I really like it, and it gave me a bit of courage to try painting birds also in the future. Then I thought about doing a still life, and yeah, it's not a perfect one. It has a lot of mistakes, but what I liked was like the color of the bananas and also the lime that I painted and the shadow effects. So yeah, it's far from perfect, but I still really like it. It was a nice experience to do it. Then I found two cute sweets on Pinterest again, and I tried to reproduce them. It was the first time I realized that kind of this texture was so easy to create with a rougher paper and oil pastels. So basically this looks complicated, but in reality it was quite easy to do. So I really love how they turned out. I was proud. I was really motivated to keep on with the challenge because of how well these two desserts turned out. The following day, I decided to try a landscape again. I did that sea waves landscape a few days before, and then I found a video tutorial on Pinterest, and I followed it to create these like tulip field design. I had a little bit of trouble with the sky, but still I think it is quite pretty. The next day I remembered the rose I created on my first day, and I wanted to recreate it using the Pentel ones, so no more sennelier, high quality, high pigment, high blendability. And it took some time. I kind of looked at the rose photo and sketched it and then tried to create petals. It's not perfect, but for the first time I managed to do the combination for the leaves color to make it look much better than in the first days when my leaves were really too bright and unrealistic. So this was also the point where I realized that practicing really makes a difference, and this rose it's much better than the rose I did in my first attempt of oil pastels. Then we had a really snowy day in Vienna. Everything was covered in white. It was a significant amount of snow during the night, and we had to clean everything. And for that, I was looking on Pinterest for a video tutorial with like a winter landscape, and I was really happy with how it turned out. Um, Especially, I found the advantage of having a rougher paper and oil pastels, because basically the snow on the trees is a given. So you just lightly sketch the tree and then you have the snow already built in. It was also the first time where I tried to do more details with the oil pastels, and that was not easy. If you have a brand new one and it's like the edge is very sharp, then it's easy to do, but once the edge becomes a little bit more blunt, then you cannot have that precision anymore, and you notice it right here on that side. But overall, it's really pretty, and I'm very happy that I was able to do such a beautiful piece after just a few days of practice. Then comes the inspiration from a YouTube video from Sandy Hester a few years ago. I just saw this recently, and I tried to recreate something that she did. It was a really nice experience. It was not that easy to do, but still I think I managed to create the focal point on this coffee cup and also on the plate, which was exactly where I wanted to draw the attention. So it was a new artistic area which I was exploring, and I was really happy I was able to get inspiration and create this piece. Another Pinterest video, as you notice, I was expanding a little bit. I got more courage to make a background here, also creating a little bee. I thought I would never be able to do it with the oil pastels, but it's a little bit chubby, but still it's quite cute. And I also liked how the flower petals in the center turned out. Regarding leaves, as you noticed, I'm not having bright leaves anymore. So I get a better grip on which colors I need to use for that. Then I got one rose bouquet from the grocery store, and it was like 50% off, and it cost me just €2. And I was so inspired to just paint it and try again a glass vase and see if I can manage to do it. And I really like how it turned out. I managed to make roses look like roses. I also played a little bit with the direction they were in, so it's basically um, close to the reality and how the roses were uh, positioned in the vase. So yeah, it was a good day. Then I saw this video also on Pinterest, and I followed it step by step. And I really liked how these like honey stick turned out. I think it's quite realistic. The jar is not symmetrical, but still, I really love it. I did not do any background. This is like a minus. I thought I did not have enough time, so I just focused on the focal point and left the background empty. Another video tutorial from Pinterest, this time with an avocado. I really love how this seed turned out. Yeah, it's not a lot to say. I made some mistakes on the side. I was like smudging the oil pastels. That's the risk of using oil pastels. But overall, I really loved it. And I also loved that I managed to do quite realistic color selection of the actual avocado part. Then I remained in the food area for the following day, and I created these like egg on toast. It's also not the perfect egg, but still I liked how I managed to do the volume for the egg yolk here, and also the texture of the bread. The following day, I went with my son to the dentist's office, and they had a window, and through the window, while waiting, I was just seeing some winter scene with two trees, and I remembered, I couldn't take a picture, but I just remembered the trees and how they were positioned. And at home, I did not only do the window and the trees, but I wanted to create a windowsill with a mug and a little bit of still life and two glasses. It's not perfect, the mug is a little bit wonky, but I really loved this idea of having a window and combining the outside with the indoor world. Also, it was the first time I tried to create a porcelain print on something which was more detailed, and I really love how this turned out. The next day, I got Daphne's Diary magazine, and I saw there a very inspiring picture, and I wanted to recreate it with my oil pastels. It's the first time like I was creating a landscape from one photo. I had no idea how to do it. It was also a lot of perspective, but I used my Caran d'Ache Neocolor 1 light gray to sketch everything. The sea was quite easy to do, and also the sky. So yeah, it's a good reminder of the day in that specific magazine. Then I turned to landscapes again, and I used another tutorial from Pinterest, like having like a bushy tree as a focal point, and then a field with some lilac flowers. And it was pretty relaxing. It was a day where I did not have a lot of time. I knew which colors I needed to get. I also tried to picture some clouds and using a little bit of gray. So I kind of also experimented with sky in this piece, and I was quite proud of it. The following day, I did not have a lot of time, so I came back to the idea of drawing lemons, and I saw also a Pinterest tutorial, and it was pretty quick and easy to sketch and also to paint with oil pastels. The blending was also quite easy. For the centerpiece, I forgot to leave like a white area for the highlight, but I managed to add a little bit of white so you don't see that so well in the final version. The leaves did not make me so happy this time, but yeah, they're pretty decent. Then I just saw a teacup with a lemon in it on Pinterest, and I painted it, and then I decided to go and work more on my window concept. And for that, I just created one table. I created the window with like, it was a spring day, a sunny day, and I wanted to make the trees more like a spring time trees, and you see a little bit of leaves. And then I also wanted to add some drapes for more interest for the window area. I was at that point, I was unsure if I could use this kind of lilac color, but it turned out quite nice, and I really love the whole piece. So this is one of my favorite uh, pieces of the whole challenge. And then there was another photo from the Daphne's Diary magazine, which is very inspiring for me. And although it was really quite small, I took it as an inspiration and I adapted it to my own sketchbook. I think this one took one of the longest time to do because there were so many details and I had to think about so many things, but I really, really like how it turned out. I still did not get enough depth or for this like white furniture piece, but I love how the carpet turned out and also how the door and the walls turned out. Another evening where I did not have too much time and I thought, well, let's go to something that I'm really familiar with. And I saw a picture, it was just a photo on Pinterest, and I recreated a still life. And I love how my peach turned out. It like even has like a peachy texture. And on the other hand, I also like how the pear turned out. I had some trouble with the shadows here. The colors were not wanting to blend anymore. I think it was too much color on that area, but still it's quite nice. And because of the lack of time, I tried to add a fabric and paint it, but I did not have time to just saturate it with oil pastels. And I thought this just makes a little bit of background and brings the focus on my still alive. So it was really nice work. And then we come to the day where I wasn't inspired, I was in a hurry, I was standing and trying to paint, and nothing turned out as I wanted. I also got messy on the side. So, yeah, it was not a good day, but still, I was proud that I turned out for myself and for my art practice, and I did something. And the next day, I was still on the impact of what happened in the previous day, and I got uh, some other flowers from the grocery store, and I tried to paint them with oil pastels. It started really nice with these center ones, and then I had 3 roses, and those did not turn out so well and so realistic. So afterwards, also the leaves were too dark and like kind of overpowering, and the focal point was not on the flowers but on the leaves, and I did not know what to do. I also saw some stems, and I kind of made mistakes regarding how to position those stems and in which direction. And then to correct it, I just created this kind of bouquet wrapping around it just to save something from what I created. But still, it's not, yeah, it's not very, it's a bad day. And I was like at that point thinking, okay, the previous day it was not good, now it's also not good. How can I get back into the motivation and into that creative spirit which I had at the beginning? And then I just finalized it, said, okay, that's it, this is what I did. And then I just turned the page and created a more abstract version of that same flower bouquet. So, and I just enjoyed it. I knew it couldn't be worse than the previous one. And I just imagined everything I want. I added even more contrast to the roses, which are not looking like roses anymore. I made leaves triangles, but still, I liked and I enjoyed doing this one. So this one brought me back in the mood. It was the same day I had another mood when I finished with this, and for the next day I was ready to start something new. And basically this is what I created. It's one of my very favorite pieces of the whole 30 days challenge. I really love how these sea uh, scape looks like. I love the shine that I managed to create on this path, and also how I overlapped the flowers with the sea. I also loved the texture I managed to create for the sea, and the difference in texture with the sky, even though I used the same colors. And that was because this part I did not blend, whereas the sky I did blend. And I was also learning that you can just add colors on top. So it was really a great day and a great learning for me doing this piece. And this was basically my last day of the 30 days challenge. So I finished with a really nice piece, which I'm very proud of. So that was everything I managed to create during 30 consecutive days. And now I would like to share my thoughts about this whole experience and if I would like to recommend it or not. Overall, I noticed a significant change. This doesn't mean that I'm an expert. I'm far from an expert, but now looking at the picture, I'm kind of able to think about what colors I need to use and in which order to create something. So I think this is a great win from this whole experience. So it was really worth it to be consistent and show up every day for a little bit for my creative practice. Secondly, I noticed that there are two types of learnings as a beginner. First, you just learn the medium, you learn how oil pastels work, you learn how oil pastels blend. And the other type of learning is something I noticed about halfway into this 30 days experience. I just started to learn the colors and which colors are best suitable for one specific use. So that was really great, just using one specific palette along the whole challenge allowed me to be able to choose my colors easier than at the beginning. On the other hand, I also thought about the number of oil pastels that were necessary for such a challenge. And I had 50 colors in my set, so it's basically 49 colors, and the white was double. So with these 49 colors, I was able to learn which were those colors, and also not be too overwhelmed regarding the color palette. If I had less, for example, like 24 oil pastels, I think it would have been more difficult, especially when using budget oil pastels, because the blending between them is more difficult. So having more color variety, more in between colors was very useful to kind of create a blend more easily. There is always at least one really, really bad day. I had two such days where nothing went as I wanted to, but remember, those days come, those days are normal, and you just have to find a way to get back in the flow. For me, that was like finalizing the painting I started, so not leaving it unfinished, turning the page, and then create something else with my own feeling, not having any reference photo. I tend to usually go into the abstract when I kind of relax and get into the mindset of creating. So basically, I did an abstract version of what I previously did, and that allowed me to enjoy the whole process again. And the following day, it was much better, and I enjoyed the whole process again, and I was not thinking, oh my god, I lost my mojo and I cannot do it anymore. I got tired. So basically, just doing something you just enjoy and just playing with the medium is a very good idea for when you have a bad day and you want to get back into the mindset of being creative and being optimistic about what you are creating. Regarding the tips, I just use sandwich paper with washi tape to protect my creations, and in that way I was able to use both sides of the pad for the creative process, and the artworks did not blend with each other. So that worked great. Parchment paper would also work, or anything that you might have on hand which is kind of resistant to being sticky. Also, a normal piece of paper would help if your oil pastels are on the drier side, like it's usually with more budget-friendly oil pastels. Regarding blending, I did not use any complicated tools. I just used a simple tissue or a Q-tip for blending. But in 99% of the cases, a simple tissue was perfect for just blending everything out. And last but not least, it's really useful to get feedback on your progress. If you don't have anyone around you that is an experienced artist, and this is the situation, I mean, at the moment, I was able to rely on the AI to give me feedback. And I specifically mentioned that I am a beginner and this was like my 10th creation in oil pastels, and I want to get a critique regarding value, regarding composition, and also regarding the color choice. Those three things allowed me to learn from my mistakes and to be able to be better in the next artworks I did. Personally, my greatest weakness is in values. I'm always thinking I'm using dark values, but I'm just limiting myself to light and medium values. And this is really helpful to get feedback and kind of improve on that. I still have a lot to learn. So this would be like a new challenge subject for me, maybe, but it's a really good idea to get input about the work you just did. You can also ask the AI for suggestions. So I was able to kind of correct some of the things I did very easily using some little pieces of advice I got from the AI. Well, that's it. That was my 30-day oil pastel challenge. I hope you liked it. If you are a beginner, I hope you are considering doing something similar. Thank you very much for your time, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.